Hey, I am Henry. I am the editor of Flip of Fate. I also play Ian Locke or Edward Stanley, or I also DM'd Operation Xmas uh, off of Flip of Fate. And I'm going to be going through a new and improved editing video. Now, the reason I originally made an editing video back in October, when I've been only editing for 2 months since I started editing in August when I edited episodes 1, 2, and 3 of the premiere of Flip of Fate, was because when I was looking for editing videos on TTRPG Podcast, because it's a bit different than regular podcasts. Regular podcasts are like, yeah, it's super easy. Just do blah blah blah, like 1 2 1 2, and it's because sometimes they don't have. It's not the same vibe because it's a regular podcast, but also it's not the same editing format you might use for a TTRPG podcast in general, especially when you're recording 5 voices and then editing 5 voices. It is a whirlwind of fun, and sometimes you do just need a little brain break when editing. And of course, I obviously do that as well. Now, here is what we're going to be doing. I have recorded these videos in 4 parts. It's going to be phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 of how I edit. And phase 1 will be going over a dynamic. We'll be going over how I level everything out, and then how I render everything, how I organize everything, and just the organizations of my files and folders for Flip of Fate. Phase 2 will be going over how to dynamically split tracks and then push them all together while keeping them in sync of player talking. And phase 3 will be me listening to the episode, putting markers on the episode, and it will include a time lapse of just how it looks like sped up, because I have like a 3 hour video of that. So it's just going to be a nice little. Obviously, it did not take 3 hours to listen to the episode. Well, I recorded a 3 hour version of it because if it was like 15 hours, it would be way too fast to see. So it'll just be a part of it, and then you'll see me coming through and breaking the time lapse just to basically explain different thought processes, different markers, different stuff like that. And phase 4 will be finally getting into sound design. Sadly, OBS was not working for me when I wanted to do sound design, so we have to do a little workaround. I'll basically be having OBS recording on everything and be doing that. And then I'll be just doing a little listen through of episode 15 and explaining my thoughts on why I did this or why I didn't do this. And obviously how I differentiate between like sound design stuff and dice stuff, and how to make it easily organized and recognizable when your track looks like a little Frankenstein mess of a bunch of markers. So we will be doing that. And if you look and you're like, you look different when you do phase 3, it's because I recorded phase 3 beforehand. And phase 4, when I recorded it, sadly did not have any audio. But I fixed it, so now we'll be just having to do a little summary of phase 4, a little look through. Don't worry, I'll still be going in detail of what I did and how I did it, but that's just how it worked out. It's sad, but yeah, we lost audio for it. So we'll be going through phases 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And phase 3 will be a previous video I recorded earlier this week. So if I say some of the same things, sorry about that. But now you know. Anyways, let's get on to phase 1. Now, first, let's talk about edit organization. What do I do first in the very first off? Well, very first, I take the basic tracks. Now, if you're wondering why Dawson has two, it is because this is what it looks leveled versus this is what it looks unleveled. Now, as you can see, um, it does a pretty good job. I mean, you can definitely tell where dice rolls are because you see the spikes and stuff, right? You see a lot of those spikes, and those are dice rolls. But those can be easily edited out, especially when we usually tend to roll dice after we say something, just because we all know mics and mic etiquette type deal, and we're all in the same room. So we tend to roll dice and then talk and call it a day. But this is just a little example. We're not going to get to like differences. First, let's just go to rendering. What I originally do is that I'll go to options, I'll go to render, not options. Oh my gosh. I'll go to file. I go over here to render. And let's say I want to render Dawson's. Okay. I will go to browse, and with Reaper, you have a bunch of directories. For me, all my players each have their own folder for all their uncut voices to go into the leveler because that's just how it needs to work. So for Dawson, I would do Dawson, Flip of Fate something, episode 16, right? And then I would put them in mono, sample rate. And because this is a 4.5 hour recording, I had to turn the bit rate down, or else the file size would be humongous. So, and then I would put it and add them to render queue. And why add them to render queue instead of rendering a file? Well, sometimes for these files, they took about 44 minutes to render. That is not the normal. That's because it's a 4.5 hour recording. But if I open render queue, you see him. Usually after this, I would be like, okay, now I'm going to go and I'm going to do mine. So I'm going to select my track. This is Dawson's. I'm going to select my track. I'm going to go to Henry, type in my name, go to my player, and then press add to render queue. And now I have both, but they're both going to separate folders. One's going to Dawson's, one's going to mine, right? And feel free to copy my homework. That is the best way I learned how to do stuff, was to just see how other people did it, use those settings, and then when I need to change them, mess around with them. So what you're going to want to do when rendering a file, you're going to want to press selected tracks. What that basically means is it's going to basically render whatever track is selected, right? Now you can do it within a time frame if you want to. You can do a time selection. Let's say you want to render just a clip of something. You go, okay, highlight that selection, time selection. It's only going to do from 404 to 408. But I want to do the entire project file, right? I want to do from 0 to end. And then with only that track, and then you press add to render queue. You do that with all 5 voices, for an example of what I usually do. So I'd put Dawson, Henry, Logan, Israel, Parker, all in their respected folders, all with their respected names. And then I would press render. I would go over here, open up render queue, and then I would press render all. And then it will just render all of them one by one by one, and I won't have to press render one file. You can render one file. So then I'll like leave for school or something, come back, boom, it's all done. All great. Now that I've actually already done this, obviously, you can see we're going to be talking about Ophonic and what I use. Ophonic is a auto leveler. Um, and I'm currently going to pull it up. I do not want to pull it up. I'm going to pull it up right now. So we're just going to go into here and let me pull up that engine. Ophonic is a paid for. I think it does. I believe it does like 3 hour free a month, I believe, but you could also pay in credits, which credits like a monthly thing isn't too bad. And you're going to want to click multi-track production. What this does, it will basically, you add all your tracks that you just rendered under the people's names. So I'd put Dawson here, Henry, Logan, and I kind of just put them in whatever order they are in on Reaper. So it makes it easier for me to know, oh, track 1's Dawson, obviously. And then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the line, right? Now, for this, I just do my regular preset, which is just podcast ready. It's a preset I made. It basically just puts everything how I like it. I actually don't think I've changed it for this, but you're going to want to put format individual tracks. This will basically just give you all those individual level tracks, which is what you want when editing a podcast. You don't want to have one combined thing, because you want to sometimes like crosstalk. Sometimes there's like ambient spill, stuff like that, like just people getting picked up in other microphones. Like this does a great job at getting rid of most of it if it can identify a main speaker, but it doesn't do all of it. So obviously you want to put some high pass filtering on there, call it a day. I don't really do noise reduction because I don't trust it. Plus I already have some background noise reduction filters of my own. So I wouldn't trust it. I mean, you obviously can do it if you really want to, but I wouldn't trust it. I've never tried it, but it might be good. It may not be good. And you're going to want to then go to individual tracks, put it in the zip file, and then you're going to want to press adaptive leveler and adaptive noise gate. The reason why we're not doing cross gate or automatic cutting is because this one removes all my speech breaks, removes silences, filler words. But I don't want that because I want to keep the time selection the same. Usually when it comes to automatic cutting, it'll just push them all together. And then, oh, wait, the tracks are out of sync. Now what do I do? Right? And then now the voices are out of sync and it just messes it up. A cross gate will take whatever speaker is active, and let's say in D&D there's a lot of yapping, there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of yapping to your friends and yelling at your characters and stuff like this, a lot of fun. But it means that there's a lot of like talking at the same time, yelling at your friend across the room type of deal. Um, and what this will try to do is it will say, okay, let's say me, Dawson, Parker are talking. It will say, okay, you have Dawson talking, you have Parker talking, and you have me talking. And it will try and figure out which one is the main out of all this. Me and Parker may be saying really important information, but if it says Dawson's talking and he's the main guy, you will basically have to be like, okay, I want to, it will push down Israel's, or I guess I said me and Parker, it will push down me and Parker to the very bottom to where you can't really hear me at all. And you can't really tell what I'm saying or what I'm talking or what I'm doing, which isn't what you want, right? So I just disable that. What these ones will do, however, is just bring everyone up to the same volume. Like I'm a very loud speaker, so is Dawson, so is Logan, but Parker and Israel are a bit softer of speakers, just quieter. Just because obviously it's obviously sometimes how characters talk to, with Parker playing Preacher 87, which is this like more low, gravelly voice. And what this will do is it will just bring all of us up to the same volume. So if I'm up here and Parker's down here, it will be like, oh, you want 16 decibels? You're going to go here, and it will just bring us up to the same level. So if it will bring up the highs and put them back down, it will bring up the lows, put them back up. So you're going to want to press 16 less and do -1 decibels, for true peak. True peak explains it for you, but basically, it's kind of like this. Instead of auto doing true peak, which is what you kind of don't want to do because sometimes it messes up like loudness, you want to say, okay, I want 16 less lufs, and that's what I want you to hit. But if it goes anywhere between that -1 plus 1, that is fine. But it can't go anywhere past this, okay? And that's what you want. You're basically creating a gate. You're creating a fence. You're like, okay, you want to hit this guy, you want to hit this target, but if you go a little bit above, a little bit below, that is fine. You just can't go past this, right? You're going to get a little rule set. And that's what you're going to want to do. Adaptive leveler just brings up the differences, like I said, highs, lows, and adaptive noise gate will decrease background noise if a speaker's not active. So let's say Logan's opening a can, right? Or he's opening a bag of chips, whatever. And the mic picks it up, obviously, because it is a mic. But he's not talking, he's just opening something up. It will say, oh, that guy isn't talking. That's just background noise we don't need. And it will say, okay, we don't need that anymore. Brings it down all the way, which is great. And which is what we want. And it does a great job at it. It's not perfect, but it does a great job for it. Um, and I know it's a bit hard to see everything when I'm talking about this, right? So because obviously the this whole thing is down, but it's because my monitor's a bit bigger and OBS says if I don't record and do this crop, you will not be able to see the words at all. So it's just gonna have to be like this. If you want to look and just kind of follow along, go to alphonic.com, look at it. You can view everything without actually doing a production. Like you can view everything. You don't have to buy credits just to look and test this out and look at all these features. Okay. So yeah, follow along if you want to. I'm sorry that it looks like this, but it's just how it is if you want a good quality like screen video and you don't want to be wondering what I'm looking at. Now, anyways, let's get to file organization real quick. Back at it. I did this last video and I really enjoyed this, but here's Flip of Fate recordings, right? So we have our ad reads, we have our clips of recordings, episode start and ends, and I'm just going to go through one of them. Ad reads, basically all our ad reads we've done throughout the podcast. Everything we have is there. So we have our promos for everything, and then we also have every podcast promos. Clips or recordings are if I ever need clips of something. So, like, let's say I need episode one's intro, or like if I have end credits and I haven't leveled them or put them through any filters or anything like that, I will put them here and just like label them draft or beta or whatever. Same with content warnings. Like these are basically the rough draft MP3s before they get leveled, but they're not full episodes, so I just put them in here. Episodes start and end. Obviously, these hold our intros. It holds our music intros. It holds our content warnings for the guys. It holds the credits. So I just label all my credits end 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, so on and so forth. Just makes it easy to see, easy to read, and it works well. I don't need to do anything. Rough drafts are obviously the rough drafts of all our intros, or like end credit stuff too. It looks like I have some content warnings, like where I held all my content warning stuff, just different Reaper project files. Intro edits obviously are where we keep all our intros. You have Echo in the Pines, you have our intro theme, you have the coin flip sound effect that you use. And I hate to say, but the coin flip sound effect at transitioning into the episodes after, excuse me, the intro was not my idea. It was actually Logan's. And every day I'm like, man, that it's such a good idea. And he was just like, hey, Henry, for the intro, what if there's a coin flip to switch between everything? And literally my mind just went like, why did I think of that? But it was a really great idea. And I'm glad Logan brought it up. Anyways, we'll go to here, and obviously one shot's unedited. That just has all our unedited Reaper project files of everything. Players rendered voices for OBS. This basically just has when we when I do our clips for the episodes, I use DaVinci Resolve, but I record our videos on OBS. So this basically just shows all our rendered voices with the effects, but they're uncut. So they're not the actual, because videos are uncut, obviously, and I just use clips from that. These are just the uncut video with leveled out and added effects to make them podcast quality that we use in our podcast so that everyone can hear it. So the audio isn't a major difference between phone and podcast. Obviously, there's some like things that Instagram and Twitter and Blue Sky do that kind of like will put the audio a bit down depending on their own thing. But most of the time it's a somewhat one-to-one copy without, how I edit. Here we have all the players. Like I said, I have Dawson, me, Logan, Parker, and then I have a separate one for all our one shots, Echo of the Pines, Operation Xmas. And then I also have some different things I've added in here. This is just a second try of me at rendering episode 13.5 because we did it in two parts. We did Israel and Dawson's recording, which the guys didn't know about. And then we also did the ending part where all the guys met up and they had no idea what happened in episode 13.5 when we recorded that. I never listened to it. I only knew about it because I'm the editor and they needed to use all the microphones that are at my place and the whole editing audio recording software that we use because we all record in person except for Dawson, who has his own stuff, which is the same as mine. So we have then our sessions edited, which is just MP3s of all our finished recordings. And then sessions unedited, same thing, all our things. A little fun fact for you guys is that we didn't know what our episode, or I guess what our name was going to be for a podcast. We had a bunch of ideas. We settled on Flip of Fate, obviously, but one of them was Dicey Decisions. So in episode 1, you never like get to see the name, but the project name I named episode 1 Dicey because when we recorded episode 1, 2, and 3, I actually didn't know what our name was going to be. But then we decided on Flip of Fate and we've loved it ever since. Sound effects is where I keep all my ambience and MP3s and stuff from our ambience maker, Fantasy Craft Forge. They have a bunch of awesome and amazing stuff. And they actually shut down all future projects for personal reasons, but they still have a bunch of stuff up on their website and everything. So go check them out, support them still. They're not currently making anything right now, but they have a bunch of stuff in their vault and library that's vast, just amazing stuff. But right here, so this is where I keep all of it. What I have is like an instrumental sad. I have some, I think, oh, this is something I grabbed from YouTube earlier on in the years. Yeah, August 23rd, like when I first made it. And then I have some instrumental stuff, like Preacher's theme. I have some instrumental theme that I don't know what I'm gonna do with, but I have something I made. I don't know when I'm gonna put it there, but I made something really fun. That's going to be for some future project, future episode. I don't really know what I'm going to use it for, but I really enjoyed it. And I was like, I have to keep this, even though I don't know what I'm doing with it. SC projects are all my personal projects. So in episode 13, I believe, which was the part 1, part 2 episode, this is something in the museum or something like that. We have the Silent Night strings and piano along with like Witch Doctor bagpipes version because obviously Logan is a bard who plays Vital Lancaster, or he plays a bard named Fido Lancaster, who uses bagpipes and drums. So whenever he wants to do that, he says, I play that on bagpipes during the session. And I said, okay, that'll be fun. So I made Witch Doctor, I made Silent Night, with with the strings too. Why I said piano, I don't know. But with the strings too, because Preacher has a violin. I have the Portal theme that was in our most recent episode, episode 15, recorded with Fido stuff on there, and I made him sound a bit robotic-y too by adding some auto tune, just because I thought it would be fun. Um, and yeah, that's all my personal projects for stuff. Unedited MP3s now are just MP3s that are for the Flip of Fate cast. Sometimes we take a month to record. Sometimes it's 2 weeks. Sometimes it's less. But we never know because life happens. Personal stuff gets up, and life moves by quickly. So we never know when our next session's gonna be. We try to plan it out, but sometimes life happens, and we have to say, okay, let's cut it short. Let's do something else, and we move on. And we record another day. But these are all our unedited MP3s. I put them in a Google Drive, which I think Google Drive is great. That's what I use for backing up everything is a Google Drive. But I put all these into a Google Drive, and then the guys can download them and listen to the unedited sessions before we play our new session. So if, let's say we have episode 16, the guys can listen to episode 16 and then be like, okay, now that I'm caught back up, time to play episode 17 and stuff. Like they'll listen to it the day before or something like that, because I for one forget what I said half the time in episodes, and when I listen back, that's when I remember, oh, I said that. And sometimes it's like, oh, I forgot I said that, why'd I say that? And it's just a lot of fun listening back and kind of forgetting what you did. And sometimes the guys have their own scenes where they're doing combat, or we do split off episodes, so we're just sitting there and I'm playing Belatra on my phone while Israel's and Parker are doing their combat heavy episode, and then it's back to me and Fido, who did their fun little Portal episode, if fun is a term for it. But yeah, that's just how it is now. In saying that, this is the end of phase one. Phase one is over. It is great. Now we are going to be going into phase two, which is dynamically splitting and pushing all the tracks together. And I will be back with phase two. So bye for now. Hey, we are back with phase two. Now, phase two is a lot of fun. And it is actually what I just recently learned. But with Reaper, uh, you have obviously you have a lot of tracks and a lot of editing, and this is a 4.5 hour recording, so this is a great example. Now I'm also going to just go over one thing. Alphonic leveling, this is what it does, because I forgot to do this in phase one. You see Dawson talks, laughs loud, it peaks. What that does, Alphonic before Alphonic, after Alphonic, brings it down, matches it with the rest of the guys. And then if you look over here, we recorded this other part separately because we just inserted it. We were like, oh, we kind of did this thing in episode 16 where it was like Dawson did this kind of mirage of like, oh, Preacher did this, Henry did this, Fido did this, blah, blah. And then we went back to Israel, who was in combat. And that was because Israel had to leave. So we weren't trying to rush the episode. We were just like, we'll do that to make it so that Israel can finish this part, do the end of the episode, and then we'll go back and actually play out those scenes where it was just a Henry Logan Parker scene once Israel left. Israel had some stuff to get going, had some stuff to do. So we just said, okay. And then I inserted it after. So this is obviously where you could tell where I inserted the audio. And it's also a bit lower. Why? I actually don't know. It's on Dawson's end. But yeah, you could definitely tell it brought this up to here, and now it's at the same as these guys. So that's what Ophonic does. It does a great job. And it does a great job at taking out background noise. So obviously it's not like perfect, right? Uh like when you have laughs, it doesn't know what to take out, what to do, because sometimes I laugh loud and Israel doesn't really laugh loud, but me and like Logan do, you know. But it does most of the good time at taking out when people don't need to be in there. So you don't even hear our breaths or anything in our mics. You just see Israel talking. And then, but you can also tell like, oh, this is a dice. This is like for dice, stuff like that. Um, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you what to do. You press D on your keyboard. That brings up dynamically splitting. As you can see, a blue line appears and it will slowly stretch out and then it will split it. Alrighty, now we're going to be doing dynamically splitting. What that means is that just copy my homework. I mean, when I first started editing, I did the same thing. I mean, Freddie Raw. Oh my gosh, English. Context. I listened to Dungeons and Daddies a lot. It was my first podcast that introduced me into D&D, and it is what I kind of draw inspiration from. I like their short hour and a half episodes, somewhat episode hour 45 minutes, and I wanted to learn how to edit like they did. And if you didn't know, Freddie Wong, who plays Glenn, did a lot of the editing in the beginning of it, and during COVID, part of the Patreon stuff, he made a video of just a live edit of him just live editing everything and doing a little showing of his plugins he uses, how they're how they're like made, not how they're made, but like how they're set up, what like numbers he does, stuff like that. And I just copied it because I was like, okay, this is great. I don't know what any of this means. I want to learn what this means. But for right now, I'm just going to copy this and then branch out from there. But the thing was, that was blocked behind a paywall, and I couldn't find any other videos going over anything D&D wise besides that, which is why I wanted to make this video in the first place, to make these type of videos every, let's say, 9 months, 6 months, whenever I learn something new about editing. And now that's why I say just copy my homework. I mean, and mess around with it. Just look at this, copy it. Look at the numbers, just put them all down. Reduce splits does it automatically, right? But it by like how many splits it actually has. But just copy it. 20, 230, -49, 8. Threshold is basically like how loud of a thing does it need to be before it decides it keeps it in. So I just do it where any silences it doesn't. And even if it's like this tiny thing, I keep it in, or even if it's like it doesn't even know what it is, I keep it in because it will like I'll be able to just take it out. It's not that big of a deal to take it out later, and it's not like it's going to change much. So I just keep in every noise, even if it's background noise too. But like I said, Ophonic does a great job at getting rid of background noise, so I don't really have to worry about that. So copy my homework. Once you do, press split. You'll see that now they're all there. They're all good. What I want to do from there is that sometimes, let me find a good example of this. Right here, sometimes it says, oh, I don't know if it's cut all the way. Usually it's not. Like if you really zoomed in, you can see it's like not really cut, but I like to leave space there anyways, just for room and stuff like that. So what I tend to do, this also is a great example. If you zoom in right here, obviously it's not cut, but from the looks of it, it kind of looks like it is. So instead of doing that, I sometimes also it will like you have like your like all those noises that sometimes it doesn't really get picked up on the face of it, but it obviously you need it for the word that you're making. So what I do is I just tend to go like that, and then I go to this end and I go like that. What that will do is it will do that for every track, and it will just give the beginning and end a little bit more room than what Reaper said, which I like to do. So you don't need to do it, but I tend to like it because then if I'm listening back and editing, I don't have to go and be like, oh, this was like this. Now I need to move this up, right? And what I will do now is I'll just be dynamically splitting everything, and we'll get back once I finish dynamically splitting everything. So bye bye for now. Alrighty, we are back, and I have split everything as you can see. Kind of looks like a little web of stuff, and you could obviously see where people's parts were in these episodes if you look at it from a little broad stroke. But this is what you're going to want to do. First, clarifying this. This is Reaper. You can add on. It's very customizable. I don't think this won't work with every DAW. I know people like using Adobe a lot because kind of it does have better like spectrogram editing, and I would love to use that too. And I'm considering actually switching to Adobe and still keeping Reaper just for this process alone, just for this process, because it does a great job at taking what used to be phase 1 and 2 and making it very long and doing everything I need. And that's why I'm considering still using Reaper just for that and going to Audition for stuff like spectrogram editing and stuff like that because it does a really good job at that. And it's very intuitive. But Reaper, you're going to want to install Repack. It is an extension. Look it up. Very easy to install. Just search up on YouTube, how do I install Repack on Reaper? Now, what you're going to want to do from there is go to Actions. You're going to want to install a repository from Repack by importing repository, importing the GitHub link. Go to Actions, press Show Action List. You're going to want to look up Leafack. Now, this is what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to use Leafack, Trunicate, Silence, and selected items in trim options. Now, first, before we go forward, if you're following along with this video, search up on YouTube, Trunicating silences, keeping items in sync, something like that, Leafack. Main point, Leafack. Look at this, type this in. That's what you're going to want to do, okay? Leafack, remember that, okay? Now, what you're going to want to do before this and before you use that is that you're going to press all these tracks and you're going to select, just highlight everything, right? Even these guys. And now with time selection, you're going to go to, let's just look at where this is. You're going to take this and zoom out and just drag it all the way to the end. Now, this is important because what this does is it will basically take all these tracks and smoosh them based off the gaps and silences that you did by dynamically splitting everything. And that's my phase 2, because then it will just cut off chunks of your time because, we tend to think or do whatever. And sometimes we're not really talking because we're like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Or we're doing a combat and we're like looking through it and there's not a lot of talking, it's just a lot of silence. So I end up just pushing it all together, pushing silences all together. What I want to say with Reaper though is that when I copy it and when I do dynamically splitting, I do not split. Even though it splits silences, you see like, oh, he has a silence here, he has a silence there. He could have split that. I do not. I keep that one because it will sound robotic if you push them all together and you're cutting that much silences, but also because you want to keep the flow of how the character says something. This is D&D after all. I mean, if someone's saying this in a certain way, they may pause or they may stop talking or they may do certain just vocal things that go with that character that I want to keep in, and I want to make sure I keep the same phrasing and tone of stuff, which is why if you see, oh, he could cut this, he could cut that, and like shorten it down, I keep that in. So that's why I say mess around with the dynamically split stuff, whatever you want to in your approach. But I try to keep in these big gaps because unless it's like a DM talking, if it's a DM talking, I tend to cut it and boom, 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 just to make it flow better. But if it's like a character speaking, I want to keep how that character speaks because we obviously talk in character with intentions and how we speak and how we say things and how we do pauses for different like emotions or just to show a certain thing. Like I want to keep that all in. So that is why I do dynamically split how I do. Now with this, now that if you've done this, highlighted this, and then selected on the top time selection, boom, all the way down from the end of the track to the beginning of it, you're going to press, and you've downloaded Leafack, you're going to press Trunicate Silence and Trim in Options. You're going to press Run. Now you'll see this. What this means is it will basically, over a threshold of a negative 21 decibels, it will push everything together and cut silences between them. If you want me to know what exactly all of these mean, I honestly don't know. There's better guides out there than just me yapping. If you want like in-depth definitions of what Leafack does and what all these means, but feel free to copy the settings. I copied them from the YouTube video that explained it and said to do it this way. So do that if you want to. Just copy my homework again. That's what this video is for you to copy my homework and do what I do or change what I do. I am been editing for since August, but I'm still learning stuff. So I'm always down for helpful hints, guides, and improvements in what I do. If someone knows what to do something better than I do it, there's obviously people that know how to do it better than I do it. But this is just a nice little guide. Copy my homework. After you do that and you put it how you want to, pause the video if you need to, put them all down. Okay. Now we press process. Boom. What this will do is that it will process everything. Now, this isn't even the fun part. We haven't even gotten to the fun part. This isn't even the cool part. I can't wait to show you the cool part. The cool part is, let me pull this up. Oh, I just froze it. No. um, it's loading. Give it a second to load. It's gonna freeze. Boom. Now we've gotten to the cool part. Once it's here, you're gonna press it. Keep it at default. Keep it at 0. Okay. You want it to use exactly what you said. Is what I've learned. What the video told me was that basically this will just change like the proportions to give it like wiggle room. But because the proportions are already like labeled pretty well in the beginning options tab, you just want to keep this at default, which is 0. So you just don't type anything in. Here's the cool part. Look at that. It will just take all your time, and we were at like 4 hour 20 minutes, and it will just push it all down the line. Push it, push it, push it, push it, push it. Okay. And it's really cool. And it will just keep doing that till it finishes the episode. So you see, it's going through and it keeps it in sync because there's obviously ways to push a track down that keeps it out of sync though. So like you can do it separately, but it won't recognize what tracks are first. And it will just say, okay, I want to push Dawson's all the way down. And then I push Henry's all the way down, right? Right here. I push Dawson's all the way down, push Henry's all the way down. And I don't want that. I want to make sure it pushes it down while also keeping in check of, okay, who talked first? Who did this? Because if it's talking Dawson, Henry, Dawson, I don't want it to push it down and now it's Dawson, Dawson, Henry, because now that's out of order of how we talked in the episode. But what this will do is it will keep it in time, it will keep it pushed down, and it will push it all down while also keeping uh the way they talked in sync. So if it goes Dawson, Henry, Dawson, it will keep it in sync of Dawson, Henry, Dawson. It won't just push it down without recognizing everything. So it's great for D&D podcast. So now from a 4.5 hour-ish recording, we are now down to a 3 hour 41 minutes. Probably still going to be our longest episode, but it is kind of our special episodes, like a special get ramping up episodes type deal, episode 16. So I'm not too worried about it, but it is probably going to be our longest episode. And I, and you know, if you're listening and you are listening and you've already listened to 15 of our episodes, one long episode 16 ain't going to be too bad. I mean, if you're already so invested, you're listening to up to episode 15. Thank you. Thank you. You're the best. You're the best. Thank you. And if you haven't already, join our Discord. Link is going to be in the description because we just got links working on our YouTube videos. So links for everything in the description, including our website. Anyways, this is the end of phase 2. This is what I do. Now we're going to be going and explaining phase 3. I did record this previously, so the quality of what everything looks like is going to be a bit different. And it's going to be a bit wider, but I will fix that when we talk in phase 4. OBS sadly did not work and did not record anything of mine in phase 4, doing sound design and editing, because I don't know why, honestly. It just stopped working. So sadly, I had to redo phase 4. So we're just going to be going over phase 4 and we're going to be doing that. But phase 3 is still here and recorded. So you're going to see previous past Henry yapping about phase 3. And it's going to be a fun little time lapse showing just what I do while listening through it. Anyways, bye. Phase 3. On to phase 3. Bye. My third phase is when I listen back on the episode, cut stuff where we yap too much or it doesn't need to be in the episode because we get off topic, and like table talk stuff that's like we tend to yap, or we tend to be like, oh wait, no, never mind, I want to do this. So then there's stuff that I cut and listen to and kind of change a bit to get the flow of the episode better and to just make it work clearer as a story. I never change the story whatsoever. I never change what people say, how they say it, whatever, stuff like that. I just make it so the flow of the story is better. And along with the third phase, I also add markers throughout the track so that I can go back on my fourth phase when I do a bunch of sound design. So you'll see a little time lapse of me editing this whole thing right now. And I hope you enjoy. There'll be pauses in between when I just kind of go over my thoughts on markers and what to do and stuff like that. But yeah, this is our third phase. This is the beginning. And at the very end, I'm going to do first and second phase. And the only reason I'm doing it then is because I already obviously chopped up this episode right here. You can see, and I already kind of started it on a bit. We're only 8 minutes in, luckily. But we're going to chop up and do the first two phases of episode 16. And I'll kind of just go over and explain all of that. But yeah, this will probably be a long YouTube video, but there'll be timestamps of each phase and a little explanation of what they are for you to enjoy. So I hope I hope this is helpful for you, any podcasters or D&D podcasters or podcasters in general, TTRPG, whatever. I hope this is helpful if you're learning. Even if you're not learning and want to take a look into other people's way of editing, I hope this is helpful. Bye. Time to go to time lapse now. Alrighty, a little update for you guys. I just got back from a little brain break because doing editing is tiring. And staring at a screen for a long time at one place and repeating lines over and over again, even though like it is not annoying me as much. I know I've Parker has Parker, who plays Preacher 87, has heard me edit, and he's like, Henry, I don't think I could do what you do because listening to the same line over and over would would just bleed my ears out as a joke, obviously. Um, but yeah, we are currently 26 minutes in, halfway through the episode, basically. We're pretty much at the what I like to call the smooth part of it, like the fast part. The beginning is always like the you have the intro, which is a bit more chopped up, and you have like the beginning, and then we get to like this middle part of the episode where it's like we're doing all this portal. And spoilers, if you haven't listened to episode 15 already, is that we do all of these um like portal messing around, and it's really when we kind of lock in and it becomes super easy to edit. Now somewhere along this line, I somehow made all my tracks cut short, which means, let me, for example, if I go to, let's look here, if we have this right here, right? uh Let me zoom out a bit. The track looked like this originally, which means the line was cut short. So then I had to pull it back over itself so that
Are creating so much wind that
it would actually play how it's supposed to and blend together to make one sentence. Because like originally, if I pull like this line, right? Let's say I pull this line from Dawson, and then I do that. There's a little bit more of a gap, you see, and you see these like three dots right here or whatever. Like I don't know why this is not moving, but like this thing right here, that's a breath. So if
in
so what I do when I do my first and second phrase basically helps take all the breaths out because it will cut over a certain decibel range, and because breaths don't hit that decibel range, it cuts it out. Somehow along the line though, I hit some type of button, or I believe when I was like um had a control A on everything, I somehow moved them all back by one or something like that. I never had any problems with what I did this process for episode 14. I think I just screwed up somewhere along the way, but I fixed it by just taking all the ones that were screwed up and then just right clicking, highlighting it, and then I would just move them forward. And then you get these little cross fades, which make it sound great, and puts it back together again. But yeah, here's a little catch up. We have my dice markers. We have some sound effect markers. I will talk more about what I want to do with this right here, but we are going to do some fun layering of voices for sound effects here. Yeah, we're going to get this done tonight for release tomorrow. It is currently 11:30. Oh, my phone. There we go. It is currently 11:30. Oh, now my camera wants to focus on my mic. It is currently 11:30. So I took a little brain break from editing, and I got my favorite, the only one I could find in the fridge, and I don't even know how I got it. Sugar-free Red Bull. Usually I just drink regular Red Bull or whatever energy or coffee or 4 shots of coffee. Not at night, in the morning, before class. When I'm making my way to college, I drink 4 shots. But yeah, Red Bull and lots and lots of water because I am I am lazy about the amount of water I drink, and my fiance will kill me if I don't drink enough water. Just a joke. That is also just a joke. She's really sweet. I love her. Anyways, back to time lapse, and we'll get back when I have another update for you guys. Bye. Figured I should explain this. You may be wondering, oh my gosh, Henry, when you're adding the markers, how do you add them so quickly to do that? And do like, oh, I want to add dice right here. So let me add dice. Well, first, let me remove this marker. Uh, whoa, what was that thing? Alt click. Cool, good to know. Uh, but you may be wondering, Henry, how do you get the dice like that? How do you move it so quickly? And how do you cut so quickly and everything like that? As I'm going or something. And it's all about keyboard shortcuts. Right now, S is the default for Reaper and it slices things. Obviously you have your fade ins, your fade outs, and these you kind of just get better at moving around and doing as you go. But you may be wondering then, Henry, how do you do the mouse and how do you make it so it doesn't do this versus how it does do this without even like going over here and turning it on and off? Well, that is because I have this little HyperX mouse. It's probably about $60 off Amazon, $80. I don't know. It's super light gaming mouse that I use. But it also has two side buttons. Let's see if it focuses. Come on, do it. There we go. It also has two side buttons, which means I can pair one to turn off ripple editing and pair one to do my markers, which means that I can it takes a little bit to like get used to but it makes it so much faster because if I want to do markers regularly, I would either have to press M, but then you have to go here and you have to go, oh, I pressed M to make a marker, but now I have to go to edit marker and make the name and everything, right? Hey, one thing as I was looking back during a recording was that I forgot to mention this during phase three when listening to everything, is that you may have seen me go through the episode and turn stuff up or down depending on what I do, and that is because, like I said, like I said in phase one, Ophonic isn't perfect. It does most of the heavy lifting, but sometimes it misses something. And Dawson tends to talk louder, and his thing tends to be picked up louder. So what I usually do even is just turn his master volume down, but for this is just an example I'll show from episode 15, the uncut version of it stuff, is that if I go, I'll just usually just turn them down, match them about the same length as these guys. So like you can tell, oh, same size. Listen back to it again.
Yeah, so I time traveled.
No. That was hypothetical. That sounds a bit better then.
Yeah, so I time traveled.
No. That was hypothetical. So that is kind of what you're looking for, is that when you edit, you want to make sure you bring them up. If someone's sounding a bit too overpowering, just turn them down a bit. And if someone's sounding a bit too quiet, the alphonic didn't pick up, turn them up. So like you can kind of tell if I don't really have any preacher stuff, but like right here versus here, I would just turn me up a bit. This is Nikolai. Udin goes, and you would just see that. So that's kind of what I missed when talking in phase three, was also the marker stuff. But markers get explained more in phase four and what to do with those and how to organize them a bit better once you finish putting all your however amount of markers, right? So that's just all I have. This is going to be the end of phase three, and we'll be moving on to phase four now. So hope you enjoy. Bye bye. Hey, for some reason, the beginning of phase four did not record. So we're going to be going in about, I think we're only 5 minutes with no audio. So we're going to cut to that part. But first, I want to go over what you missed and what we are doing. So I'm going to open up this and I'm just going to do a quick little recap of what we do during phase four. And phase four is obviously our sound design. So when I do this, I'm going to open this project and I'm just going to open up episode 13 for everyone. Okay. So we are going to look here. When I started off, I always use content warning with the episode, and then we do cast facts, and then I transition into the game. And I'll talk a bit more about like dice and all that stuff and what to do Actually, I think we missed that part. So in case we don't have that, let me just show you how to actually organize all the dice. As you can see, they're all blue right now. And that is because you want to go up to here. You want to click actions. You want to click show action list. You're going to want to type in region, um, region slash, and then put in a slash. You're going to want to put in view marker manager window. You're now going to want to type in dice because you named them dice, obviously. Unless you name them roll, whatever you want to. You click here, click Control A, click this little guy, press set color. Now you can change it to whatever color your heart contents to, right? Now they're all green. Don't like it that color because it hurts my eyes. So I just do dark blue. Boom. And now you can tell the difference between what is your regular ambience and what is your sound design. I need to work on ambience. And what I usually do now in future episodes, which I don't have right now because this is a previous episode that I'm just showing an example of how you would change it, is that I put my dice all in the intro/end tab of stuff because I just keep it nice and organized and away from this. And when I format my sound design stuff, I always render the episode, combine it, like render the episode with all the voices from above, because it is a lot easier to sound and design and edit when all the voices are rendered. So as you can tell, I named it episode 13 no effects, and then I render it all, and then I'll go in and add everything that I need to. So dice, sound effects, everything. And I kind of have a couple. I also have an episode 13 like finished, just because I once I render it, I put it back in here just to make sure all the effects are where they need to be. So I have sound effects, I have ambience, ambience low, ambience. Basically, nowadays I just do a couple ambience tracks, a sound effect track, and call it a day. And I'll just change the master volume of the ambience, and then I'll be able to kind of put where I want those ambiences, depending on what volume level I want them at. And I'll just put a couple. I mean, it's not the most organized, but it works. And you can have a bunch of stuff here. And where I get my ambiences before we go back into previous Henry, and I kind of get into the nitty gritty of editing and what it's about and what you should be focusing on when editing. We're gonna just show where I get my sound effects. Most of my sound effects, most of my like stuff like wood doors and shop bell entrances, stuff like that, I get from a program called Splice. It is great. It has you can do a monthly thing and it gives you credits, and once those credits are there, you don't even need to pay more than a month, because literally you get so much credits that you don't even know what you'll have to do. You'll have too much to handle. And this will basically, you can get pre-made audio, pre-made music, pre-made sound effects. So if, let's say I want to type in a horror door open, right? Use some keywords in there. Now I can pull this up. Now I get a horror door in there, and it is great. And you can also do it with music. Let's say I want a little transition music, folk, uh, guitar, plucking. And that's where you would get that. And that's kind of what we're looking at, right? So also what I use Fantasy Craft Market. They have a bunch of stuff. You can become a Patreon. It's like $1, I think, or $3 a month, and you get access to all their amazing scenes, ambient stuff. Currently, they are I think actually they made everything free now. Uh, Everything's free here currently, I believe. If I click on here, yeah, you can uh, download any of these. They currently closed the project, sadly. The person that made all of these, so they're not doing any more custom work because of personal reasons. But all their ambience is free. All their everything that you could ever want or need, cinematics, battle maps, icons, sound effects. All of this stuff is completely free to use, and they have a bunch of amazing stuff. So I would check them out and check out their website and show support, because they're currently not doing it anymore since of like 2 weeks ago. but they still have amazing stuff here. So I would check them out because they're a great resource and a free resource to use now. But yeah, these are where I get all most of my ambient stuff besides like, royalty free stuff. But I have rarely used royalty free since like the first couple of episodes until I found like Splice and Fantasy Craft. And I'm currently now looking for someone else to do custom ambience work for our episodes again. So I'm currently looking into doing that too, to find someone to help us out with that. And obviously we pay them and stuff too. Uh, because supporting indie makers is great. Anyways, we are going to be cutting to my second part of Phase 4, where I explain it in a bit more detail, where we actually have all our audio back again. So, bye. Bye. Alrighty. Had to take a little break there, but we are back and I'm gonna just go through that. Like I said, I always want to improve what the player is saying. I don't want to like take away from it. I don't want to distract the listener from what the player is saying because D&D, the best part about it is what the player describes and his actions or descriptions of stuff, right? So like if we're talking here, this goes from going from this big crowded area, this big crowded like town center, and then we go into an office. So what I did was I wanted to basically stop the ambience when the store happened. And I thought it'd be really cool to add a little door creak with a bell entrance. So what I did was I just went here.
You're not sure. Something tells you they might be talking about you.
Okay, I just go along. I'm just whistling, living my happy
Cool.
life. Yeah.
Then you guys all walk in, and the compass on the paper.
Right. So he says, "You guys all walk in," and then that's when I do the door thing. I don't do I do the ambience after he says it. That's kind of my main thought idea is that like I'm not gonna do it before he says something, unless it's like specifically kind of makes sense for the thing. But, like, if he says, "You guys all walk in," then boom, ambience ends, we walk in, and this is the start of another scene, and I don't really need any ambience, any atmospheric stuff for that because I want to keep it in the scene and keep it in here. I don't like, I could do some obvious stuff, but I feel like it would just cloud up the episode, and I don't like to do something the whole time. There's podcasts that like to and I'm not trying to diss any podcast that does this, right? Just preference for me and, like, what I hear is that if there's something going on the whole time, my brain can't handle that, and it doesn't really like that. Not saying that for everyone, some people love that, but personally for me, my brain, if there's so much going on and there's always something going on in the background, my brain is gonna automatically focus to that and then get distracted from what the people are saying. Not saying it's a bad thing if you do it, just saying that's just how I work, okay? Which is why I edit my podcasts the same way as I would want to listen to them. So some people put music on throughout the whole episode. Some people just take the track, put it down, and then put music throughout the whole episode and call it a day. I could not listen to that. Your podcast might be great, it might be amazing. My brain just cannot, just doesn't like it. It just just cannot handle doing that because I would get off task and focus on the music instead of the actual podcast. Not saying it's a bad thing, just saying that's just how I work, and that's why I edit how I want to. Because obviously I listen to the podcast too. Uh, but yeah, I also just like thinking, I also think that when you want something, you want to give the episode room to breathe. You want to, if someone's in a scene or in a moment, you want to make it so that they stay in that scene. You don't want to take away from that scene or that moment. You want to give them this breathing room to be able to like and talk and act out this scene and improv the scene, which is why I do that. So here's the dice. Our next one was high tech market again, obviously moving from there. Uh, Shenanigans I put here, I don't think I actually did anything because I was like, "Oh, I'll do this sound effect, that would be fun." And then I put it in and I went, "I actually don't like how that sounds and it doesn't really make sense, and I'm not gonna do that." But for this one, obviously, this one's, detect thoughts, and this is my favorite actual ambience that we've done before. Let me just move this over so you can see. This is my favorite one we've done. So basically, it does a build up, and then it has a little failure thing. So the failure is this.
16. And he.
Just a curious cat, you know.
Do you mind?
Right? Uh, but I wanted to I crossfaded them, which means and Reaper automatically does that. Basically, it will just combine them, but slowly bring this track up while bringing this one down, so it does a little seamless transition. And then if they're the same ambience, it makes it a bit easier to do. You can kind of see it here. So I'll put it back to normal, and if you listen to this, this is kind of what it puts it at.
Matches it.
Okay, then
I know. And when I add this, I kind of want to do it when someone's talking, or even when someone like says a word, because then you kind of don't notice that it was in there. And I do like a little fade to slowly do it in, because if I just drop it in an ambience, all right, I guess you can't see what I'm talking about. But if I just drop in an ambience, boom, right here, uh, and then no fade, this is how it sounds. I know. I'm kind of knowing what you
Can I cast?
right? And it's just kind of a shock. It's kind of like, how did this just spawn here type deal. So what I like to do is I like to fade it slowly. Like this fade is high for a fade. Just slowly bring it up till it gets to the actual detect thoughts. And I put it in when Logan says, "Can I cast detect thoughts?" As you can hear. I'm kind of knowing what you
Can I cast detect thoughts on Ian's dad to see what happened between the two?
yeah.
Make a.
so it's slowly I'm kind of knowing what you
Can I cast?
and you don't really hear that drop in compared to if it was like that. So when you go to here,
Emotion of sadness, like deep, sorrowful sadness. You're picking up a strong emotion of sadness, like
and you don't really
deep,
notice that
sorrowful
transition
sadness.
either
Can I
because
probe
of the
more?
crossfade.
Yes, you can. 16, and he
And I made sure when doing this, I actually did not plan from like when he said it. I planned from because I could take it out, cut it. I planned for when he said it fails, so that this would be where it needed to be.
16, and he snaps over, looks at you.
So it ends when he goes 15, boom, boom, and then he talks, right? And then I have this thing.
Creatures, and it stuns him.
And those are just like certain sound effects I add in, and sometimes they're a bit too loud, so you can see I kind of turn down the volume by a bit. Same with this and this and this, right? So we have a lot of that. And then I have some sound effects from the back, like cat, Christmas, stuff like sound effect, cat in the back, Christmas thing. So this is a sound effect I use from the Christmas one shot. And I ended up not doing that either because I didn't like how it sounded. But I did like, instead of doing that, I did some tinkering stuff, which I kind of just paired a bunch of different files and a bunch of different sound effects into one to make it kind of sound like one main thing. So that's what if you hear like some certain stuff, it's a lot of just me mixing, putting in how I want to different sound effects and combining them so it sounds like one main thing. So if you listen,
And he does some stuff, and
so this one's literally just, but it like has a nice little effect, like always popping it open,
and he does some stuff, and bam, it now does play.
and then that like boom, boom,
Bam, it
like I made sure to when he goes
and bam.
bam, boom, finished. And then he talks about it. So I kind of always start with how is it going to end and then work from back from the beginning. This is obviously just a nice little cut from the
You
story.
can hear it, but everyone can hear it.
Like we were yapping, laughing. Here's our ads that I put in the middle of the episode, and then it cuts back with our.
Tell me about your childhood,
Oh.
Fido.
Right. And then we have dice. Now, this is a fun one. This one was I have my first sound effect, sand. Oh, I just jumped me from there. So I have my first sound effect, sand, right? I have my second one, this is wood. And then I have my other one. And these are all different ones, obviously. And then I have this one. And I like that one because it kind of ringed out to end it off. I wanted a little ring out reverb thing, right? So when you put them all together and you mix it with just this pulsating sand one that just stays the same the whole time, like this one just goes. But you add some different ones to give it some just some like life to it, basically, just kind of make it seem like it's moving and alive. Because this is talking about a giant sphinx.
begins to animate. It starts to like
Hear that?
shake itself loose. It's like waking up, and then the stone crumbles and falls to the side.
Ooh.
And it
And that's kind of what I wanted. I want to make it sound like it was coming to life. So this one wasn't enough. I wanted it to sound like body parts were moving. It was going bing, boom, like, you know? So, which is why I added some different ones in between this main one for that, which I thought turned out really well. And that was kind of my process. And those I pulled up from Splice. All these sound effects, all these like little stuff I pulled up from Splice. So we have Explosion of Sand.
it explodes.
I had to find something. I actually think this is like a weapon woodstone blast, but I had to actually do something else with that. I had to actually uh, make it into something else because I needed something because the other explosions sounded too loud and too like boomy and bassy, and I was like, I need like something that sounds like brick or sand, which it's when I found this, and like you hear
Goodbye. And it explodes.
I always say and it explode. Like I always make sure he gets out whatever he's saying before the effect happens because I don't if I put it here, it would be like
Goodbye. And it explodes.
oh. Then you don't it kind of overshadows this thing, which goes to my like other main reason was I don't want to overshadow players and their descriptions. So I always tend to just go and it explodes, boom, and it happens. It happens after he says it. This is the flames heavy chain stuff.
The sigil burns and it glows, and then the pillar cracks and it falls to pieces.
So obviously we have the flames and then a broken stone falling, and it cracks.
The pillar cracks and it falls to pieces.
And that's just kind of how it works with that one too. Now here's my favorite one from these episodes was I also obviously have this like doorbell entrance one where he talks about it. Anyways,
Debatable.
it's kind of debatable. We walk in, like the doorbell rings, and that was my favorite thing I made. I keep using this a lot because I love the what sound this door makes. Just that it's a nice door one. It's not like this extended thing. It's nice, short, simple. I like it. And then I had a little bell entrance, and I swear I looked like a lunatic in front of my brother when he was just laying in bed, and all he hears is a bunch of different types of bells sounding over and over on my monitors because I was trying to find the right exact bell that I had in my head, which I did. Now for this one, I really took this as like I want this enveloped in the scene. This is nice little atmosphere stuff, so it doesn't really distract from the player or what they're talking about. And I kind of thought of this more as how I did Echo in the Pines, which is like improvised audio drama format, because I knew this was going to be a lot of like just improv and character stuff and all these things like that. So, which is why I kept it as like, okay, we're going to want to give a little bit of room to breathe to get the listener drawn into the scene and then Fido talking, right? So we have
Oh, we'll do one little improv scene while they're sharing dessert.
and then I did a little fade as he
Sharing
ended.
dessert.
Carolina, I've had such a wonderful night tonight. This dessert's so
And I also turned it down a bit, and I also turned it. If you look, actually, you can't look because I don't have the track open. I feel like there's a way to make it so that you guys can see actually a wider view of everything, but I can't seem to know how to do that. But anyways, this is put down a bit, and also like in the main volume slider, it's also put down a lot too. So it really is put down a bit, and volume wise is pushed down a lot, just so that it doesn't overpower the scene because it's like plates moving and this and that, which I thought was really fun. And then it went to like us yapping.
Oh, no.
If I propose on the first date, do I have to roll performance?
We should do this again sometime and then leave.
That means you're never getting a second date.
Alrighty, sir, we'll leave you alone. Just return the boot. Like whenever it went back into the scene, I would do this, kind of just give that separation of crosstalk yap versus actual in the scene in the moment. So when we did this,
We're tearing
What, you mean in real?
a bit.
Shut up. No, you weren't.
She takes a bite of the dessert and
and then obviously it does that the rest of the way, fancy restaurant. And then I also made it so that when they leave the fancy restaurant, and this was a great way to transition between scenes because I had this a nighttime walk ambience made obviously from Fantasy Craft Forge, and I had this door. So I do a lot to hide the transition between ambiences or to hide the cutoff of ambience, like I did earlier in the episode, is that I use the door. They said they leave, so I do a door creak, and then while it creaks, bell shop ambience, it'll go into that, which worked out really well, I thought.
Just talk about whatever.
All right. And so we're walking outside. Is it like nighttime and
Yeah.
it's like the street lamps are like lit and stuff?
It's like dusk. The street lamps are just starting.
Into binoculars.
Would that actually be a thing?
Yeah.
So that again, when we're yapping, I put in nighttime walk ambience and I let it just go throughout the whole thing. I mean, technically it was only like a minute, like 4 minutes worth of stuff. Actually, yeah, 4 to 11. So like 4 minutes worth of stuff. So nothing crazy. Same with this. I kept thinking it's more like a audio drama. So these help improve the scene and add on to the scene, and they don't take away from the scene at all. If they were too loud, like if they were like up here where they usually would be.
In the living room.
You want to talk about anything that happened tonight? Like
What do you mean? I thought the date went pretty good. Yeah.
No. The date did go well. I'm just like, that's way too loud. The fireplace ambience had to take a bit of a break from there, but a fireplace ambience also just wouldn't fit if it was too loud and you hear it.
So we're.
Hey, Fido.
Yeah. What's up?
That's taken away. That's in my brain. Okay.
Yeah, the day was never in.
This is way too loud for this scene. You want it in the background, just like it would be with these characters. Like they're focusing on the voices, we should be focusing on the voices too, while also just having it as a nice background scene. And that's what I think about whenever I do long ambient stretches like these, is that I don't want it to take away from I don't want it to overpower the player's voice. I always want the voice in the scene and the improv they're doing to be first. And this is just background noise to add onto it that's in the back of the scene. So when you listen to it, hey Fido.
Yeah. What's up?
You want to talk about anything that happened tonight? Like
What do you mean? I thought the date went pretty good. Yeah.
No. The date did go well. I'm just mean like what happened with your sister. Like that does not take away. That's nice in the back, and the voices.
You know, we're
Creature
some
gets
actual-
way more and the voices are still loud and present. And then obviously we do some rolling, and then boom, we go back to that. And I add some music in there because just for like a bit of like it gets a bit dark when we're talking, like so.
quite a selfless act.
Well, there's some things that can't be forgiven.
And there's
Creature.
some things that can't be let go,
There are some things that will not be forgotten.
Well, I have found in my days.
right? And that just is kind of what I did for that. And when people are yapping, or I
You're
guess
not forgiving and forgetting. What do you do? Depend on.
I do a long fade and a long fade here to just transition, because they're kind of the same thing. They're based off the same thing. It really helps. And what I've been doing now in my episodes, just to also add on to this, and what I didn't do before, which I do now, is also I do dice, right? I add dice effects. Kind of gives immersion. And that's really what this is. Whatever I think about it, I'm like, I want the listeners to be immersed. And just the overall topic for this, we're going to be ending phase 4. This video is going to be done. But think of it this way. You want your players, you want your listeners to, I guess it's like more like I do this in post. So you want your listeners to be immersed. You don't want them to be distracted by what you put in as an editor. You want them to be immersed because of what you put in and what you do and how loud you do it or how quietly you do it. You don't want them to take away this immersion, this scene, this improv as the characters they're listening to, Fido, Preacher, Ian, Card. You don't want to take away from the scene they're in. You don't want them to, as listeners, if I'm listening to something, you don't want to be like, oh, that's a really cool thing. Or this is very loud. I can barely hear the players and what they're actually saying because of it. You want to make sure that to give room to breathe for the scene, which is why I don't rarely use ambience. Like I use effects, I use stuff like that, right? But if you look like proportionally, I give time for scenes to breathe, and I only use it when I think when it would be a cool place to add it. Otherwise, I let scenes breathe. I let the players do their things and captivate the listeners by acting out in these scenes, because it's not like every time there needs to be something going on in the background. And especially, like I already said, for me listening, I get distracted and my brain just can't really process if multiple things are going in the background. um, it can't really process like, oh, to do this, do that, do that. I get distracted, or it just gets a bit like too much, overwhelming in a sense. So that was why I also edit how I do, because I'm also listening as well. But yeah, for this, fade in, fade out. Fades always want to put the fade transitioning from it to here. And what I like to do is that, like, let's go to the bedroom.
To get some pure iron as you guys are all heading off to do your
And while Dawson ends it, I let the content, I guess this is the intro theme, slowly play. So basically, it will slowly fade in.
Nikolai is sitting there and he's crying. Nick, do your own things. Up in the rafters, Nikolai is sitting there and he's crying. And that's how we end this episode.
That's Dawson. Nikolai is just the Dawson, and that's how he feels.
And after the final line is said, boom. A short little thing. And I started doing that because it kind of helps know when the episode ends. And it's like a nice little key. Like if I'm some other podcasts do this, but like if I'm listening to an episode and I start hearing this, I'm like, dang it, this episode's about to end. But then I know, okay, time to move on. I get to listen to the next episode. And it's a nice little, if I keep doing it, a little like key in your ear as listeners to know, oh, the episode's gonna end. You hear this content warning, or this intro slowly go in, and then bang when it ends, and then you get sent into the credits. And then after the credits, we have our little like basically anything I take from the episode that I think, oh, this shouldn't go in the episode just because it's off topic, but I like it enough where I want to keep it. It goes in a little end credit, post credit, like blooper reel, basically. And yeah, that is how I edit the podcast. I take stuff from Splice, I take stuff from Fantasy Craft, I take stuff, royalty free stuff from online, and I put it in here. So if there's any takeaways from me yapping, and I didn't want to make this whole thing too long, is that always think of how to add on to a player's speaking or descriptions or anything. As editors and sound design people, you don't want to take away from the listener's experience. You don't want to distract the listener from the podcast or the scene. And when I say scenes, I mean when players start improving and acting out stuff and really having these emotional, intense stuff. You don't want to take away from that. You don't want to distract the listener and be like, oh, you have this, this, this. You don't want to distract the listener from that. You want to add on to that. And sometimes you don't need ambience, is what I've learned. Sometimes you like, maybe this needs this, maybe this needs that. Sometimes keeping it simple is best. Sometimes not doing it when it could do, like in the office thing, you could do bunch of office stuff, but then it's like, oh, we're having this every time, this thing, that thing. And sometimes I do have ambience, but I only do it for a short amount of time into the intro of the scene, and then I stop it and let the rest of the scene play out as it should be. Because I don't want something going on in my ear the whole time. I want to listen to these players act and the stories they tell and the descriptions they say. So the number one thing you should think about is that when adding something is that, does this add on to the story that is being said, or does it take away from the listener's experience or listener's enjoyment of stuff? Does this distract the listener from the podcast, from the main thing, or does this add on and help kind of enthrall the listener? Or, I forget the word I just previously used earlier in this episode, but I'm trying to think of it. Does this I'm blanking out on it, but I'm just going to say enthrall. Does this enthrall the listener in this podcast, in this world? Does this bring this world to life, is what I like to say. Ambience should help bring the world to life. It shouldn't take away from the world of the story. It should help bring it to life. It should be a background. It should be atmosphere. It should be stuff. It should be simple. It shouldn't distract the players or the listeners from stuff. We don't use ambient stuff when we play D&D. We just do a lot of theater of the mind, which is also why I like it, is because we're doing a lot of theater of the mind stuff. I just add on to that. I want to bring this story and bring this world to life with what I add onto it. I don't want to take away from what is being said. I just want to bring it up. So yeah, that's my points. This is the end of this fun little editing video. But I hope you got something out of this. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. Our Instagram right now is currently disabled off falsely reporting, and we're still working on getting it back. Hopefully, we'll get it back soon. But we have a Twitter, we have a Blue Sky, we have a Discord server that will all be linked below via our website. So please, if you really do have any more questions or anything that you want to ask, I am always more than happy to help and to talk and to work through stuff. I, as someone who struggled figuring out what to do when I first started editing, I always am there for someone who's also struggling on what to do. And instead of watching a video, just talk to someone. It's the best way. So if you enjoyed this and you have more questions, always feel to reach out to me via Discord, via Twitter, via Instagram, on any of the Flip of Fate accounts. And if you search us on Twitter, I believe we're following my also Twitter account. I don't have a Blue Sky account, but I do have Blue Sky Flip of Fate account. But feel free to personally message me as well. Anyways, that is the end of this video. I hope you got something out of it, and goodbye.